Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancto. Temeni Domino quoniam bonus. Dite autem potenti et Maria semper Virgine Beata Dominica Patrum nostrum et Sanctus Servoris Fratres et peccatum nobis mea culpa per vos serare. Aiuterum nostrum in nome Dei. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Deus, refugium nostrum et virtus, ad esto pis ecclesiae tuae precibus, auctorice pietatis, et presa cor fideliter petimus, efficaciter consequamus, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui tecum vivet et regnat, in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Oremus. Deus, qui omnes homines vis salvos fieri, et ad adnitionem veritatis venire, mite quesemus operarios in messem tuam, et ais cum omni fiducia, loqui verbum tuum, ut sermo tuos curate clarificetur, et omnes gentes cognoscant te solum Deum verum, et quem issisti Iesum Christum Filium Tuum Dominum nostrum, qui tecum vivet et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Lex Epistolae Beati Pauli Apostoli, Archibitrenses, Fratres, Confidimus in Domino Iesu, quia precepit in vobis opus votum, perficietus que in diem qui isti Iesu, sicut es mihi justum consentire pro omnibus vobis, eo quod habeam vos in corde, et in vinculis meis, et in defensione, et confirmatione Evangelii, socios gaudii mei omnes vos esse, estis enim mihi est Deus, quo modo cupiam omnes vos in misceribus Iesu Christi, et hoc oro, ut caritas vestra magis ad madris, abunde in scientia, et in domo omni sensu, ut probetis potiora, ut sistis sinceri, et sine offensa indiem Christi, repleti fructu justitiae per Iesum Christum, in gloria et laudem Dei.
Et ecce quam bonum, et
Dominus vobiscum. Sequentia Sancti Evangelii secundum Matteum.
Gloria a te, Domine.
In illo tempore habeunt Pharisei concilium inierunt ut caperent Iesum in sermone, et mittunt ei discipulos suos cum Herodianis dicentes, Magister, scimus quia verax es, et viam Dei in veritate doces, et non est iba cura de aliquo, non enim prespicis personam hominum, dic ergo nobis qui tibi videtur, licet sensum dare Caesari, an non cognita autem Iesus nequitia eorum ait, quid me tentatis hypocrite, ostendite mihi numisma census, at illi obtulerunt ei denarium, et ait illis Iesus, cuius est imago hec et superscriptio, dicunt ei Caesaris. Tunc ait illis, redite ergo, que sunt Caesaris Caesari, et que sunt Dei Deo. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. So today, instead of the usual litany we've had recently, we're having a blessing with a relic of St. Jude the Apostle. His feast day falls on the 28th, so we'll do that this Sunday after this Latin Mass. And he's the patron saint of impossible or difficult cases, so it might be a good idea to bring your intention forward as you receive a blessing. Probably not for your sports team, but I can imagine that there might be one or two difficult cases out there that you might want to pray for. Now, we're conducting an informal Christmas Mass survey. So some people had been saying, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a morning Christmas Mass? So right now we have one scheduled, but the only problem is it's at 5 a.m. So I don't know if the families are willing to get up that early. The little kids probably will be, but we don't know how everybody else is going to react. So we want to see exactly what would work best. Do we want to keep a vigil, a 5 a.m., both, or whatever? So please see Jason Fouch at the vestibule after Mass, and just, let him know what might work best for you. And then today is World Mission Sunday. Our second collection is for the church's missionary effort around the world. These are the special envelopes, or you just put in the second collection basket. This is a beautiful little envelope. It has a nun there with a little child in the universal expression, "Why are you holding my face like this?" She looks as equally disgusted as little kids all over the world. It's wonderful. Wednesday, Dr. Laura Walters will be making a presentation on Christian Renaissance art in Florence at 7 p.m. in the Ministry Center. Her recent presentations on the subject of art and Catholicism have been very enlightening, and I'm sure there'll be much Dominican art representation in this. So we continue our food drive for the St. Francis Food Pantry. Collection bins are in the vestibule of the church. Donations can also be dropped off at the parish office at the back between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Wednesdays and Saturdays. A reminder that there is free parking for the Vigil and the Sunday Masses in the ConocoPhillips parking lot on the corner of 6th Avenue and H Street. And you can, of course, learn more about all our events on our bulletin, our parish website, our Facebook page, and on the list of events posted throughout the entrances of the church. When I was in the seminary, we had an elderly friar who was a missionary for decades. He was very beloved by all, in all the missions and out. He truly fell in love with the Mexican people that he ministered to. Now, he would often bring his missionary experiences into his homilies for us. And every time he spoke, you could tell that he was really, really speaking from the heart. Well, one day, as he was speaking to us in a homily, he told us that he loved the Mexican people, quote, because they were a very simple people, unquote. Now, at that Mass, we happened to have a friar from Mexico who was studying with us who got really, really red, mumbling, "Simple, what does he think we are?" Well, was this elderly friar, this missionary, bad? No, not at all. He was always tried to be kind, tender, and of goodwill. He sacrificed himself for the missions. He didn't have a bad bone in him. But, and we hate to say it, then he did maybe suffer from a certain kind of racism, what's called often a soft racism, or the racism of lowered expectations. He made it sound, at least, that he didn't think that the Mexicans could be as complicated as the Americans, which is really silly. Human nature is human nature, even across cultures. We see that with our little girl in the envelope today. This manner of thinking or speaking can be, in a certain way, a form of infantilizing a people. We see a harder form of this kind of racism in the movie The Mission, which deals with a Jesuit mission in 18th century South America. The antagonists of the movie, who wanted to suppress the Jesuit missions among the Guarani people for political motives, tried to insist that the Guarani, the indigenous, were basically, well, infants, childlike, incapable of civilization. Well, in front of the International Commission to judge on the matter, the Guarani showed that they were not only capable of understanding, but of mastering liturgical music, be it in Latin or Guarani. In our own days, we often see this with liturgists, that among the regular folk, or in our country, it is often said, among the Hispanics, well, the people aren't as capable of understanding tradition, the older forms of the liturgy, or Latin. But as a famous Latin teacher used to say, to the shock of many, look, prostitutes, thieves, and rubes spoke Latin. It ain't all that hard. And for that reason, sometimes these liturgists, again, with good intentions, insist that everything has to be updated according to the fashion of the day of the people. The problem is that the people of today is not of the people of yesterday, and even less of the people of tomorrow. With the internet now, the world is changing far too fast for that. The guarantee of the ancient rites was precisely that it was timeless, ever ancient and ever new, never really in fashion. As much in the Last Supper as in the end of days. It is the same. When I was a college student at a Newman Center, we always sang a certain type of music in the 90s, which was in some ways already dated, which was from the 70s. When I returned 2 decades later, it was the exact same songs, even though that music no longer really interested the students. Those who were 50 and over of the more permanent community were the ones who were those were the ones who were ossified, calcified into the same style. Those who hadn't been university students in decades were ironically the ones who would accuse the young students of being too antiquated, too set in their ways, too Catholic. How ironic. And that's the problem today. We often say, well, the church has to be of this culture or that culture, but of what time? Of what place? We have at least 12 distinct American regions, differing music styles, different ages, and yet American Catholic suburbia pretty much sounds the same. Ironically, in throwing out a lot of the older stuff, we got rid of a lot of music that was indigenous, that was Hispanic, and so forth. All these things from all our missions, treasures of the New World for centuries, were thrown out in favor of the inclusiveness and hipness of the Old World. How ironic. This is what made the liturgy beautiful across cultures. As St. John the 23rd wrote shortly before the Council, the Latin language guaranteed the universality of the Church. I find it odd, maybe ironic, that the German Church is often the one at the forefront of those saying that things are too complicated for some people, for example, for those in the Amazon. Now, I remember at times some brothers were watching a movie where the Roman legions were attacking these Germanic tribes, which were totally barbaric at that point in history. So one of the brothers of Italian blood turned and told the brother of German blood, "Hey, look, my people are bringing culture to your people." It's not too far from the truth. If you remember, also, the English, when the Pope first sent missionaries to England, they came running back, saying that they were too barbaric, too vicious. But still, somehow, we persevered. And now, these are the same people that don't want to pay the favor forward of bringing the faith to others. If Northern Europe could be civilized and come to understand all these complicated things like liturgy and science, well, the people in the Amazon certainly could as well. That is, unless, I hate to say it, you're a racist and you think it's beyond them. So now we tend to go forth very much fractured. Everyone wants Mass according to his or her own preferences, with more flavors than a Baskin-Robbins. We are, in a way, not much in the way of a universal church, as more of a million particular churches. So much of the liturgy has married itself to the spirit of this age, but ironically, the one who marries herself to the spirit of this age will find herself as a widow in the next. This is why I believe in great part many have abandoned the faith in our days. I mean, what is there of the eternal in the modern? What is faith if all is subject to working groups and opinion polls? What is there to challenge one to grow in holiness in Jesus in a church that looks to bend his will to that of the world? If it's a simple matter of preference, then of course people will tune out, no matter how sadly and ineptly hip you think you are today. Your music of today will be in the elevators tomorrow, I guarantee it. Trying to be as clever as the Pharisees in the gospel today will only end poorly. No, faith, music, tradition, and horrors Latin were not too hard for peasant saints and so-called savages to grasp. Let us not disdain them, and also let us not sell ourselves too short either. Today is also Mission Sunday, which is why we have these second prayers in our liturgy today, which begs God that all people should come to the knowledge of the one true faith based on the one who is faithful and true, Jesus Christ. Again, it sounds ironic to say this to Westerners, but Jesus came to save all who share our same human nature. It's not that hard. Now, if you've seen the logo for the synod of which we spoke last week, you'll see in it, of course, a mix of different people, of different races, colors, and so on, of different abilities. But notice something odd in the logo. The whole idea then is to walk together as a church, to walk together towards God. But in order that they walk together, they all have to face together in the same direction, which oddly enough in the logo is east. So maybe some of the old ways were not so ignorant after all. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Credo in unum Deum. per omnia saecula saeculorum. Dominus vobiscum. Sursum corda. Gratias agamus, Domino Deo nostro. Veredinum et justum est, ecum et salutare, nos tibi semper et ubique gratias agere, Domine Sancte Pater Omnipotens Eterne Deus, qui cum unigenito Filio Tuo, et Spiritus Sancto unus est Deus, unus est Dominus, non in unius singularitate persone, sed in unius Trinitate substantiae, quod enim de Tua gloria, revelante Te credimus, hoc de Filio Tuo, hoc de Spiritus Sancto, sine differentia, discretioni sentimus, ut in confessione veri sempiterneque Deitatis, et in personis proprietas, et in essentia unitas, et in majestate, adoretur qualitas, quam laudant angeli atque archangeli, cherubim quoque ac seraphim, qui non cessant clamare quotidie, una voce dicentes, Sanctus, 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 Dominus Deus Sabaoth, planis oceli et terra gloria Tua, Hosanna in excelsis, benedictus qui venit in nomine Domini, Hosanna in excelsis. nobis quoque peccatoribus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Oremus, precetis salitaribus moniti, et divina institutione formati, audemus dicere, Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, dona nobis pacem. Et Agnus Dei, et tollit peccata mundi. Sic ovis gaudium est angelis Dei super uno peccatore penitentiam agente. Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu suo.
Oremus. Sumpsimus Domine, sacri dona mysteri, humiliti deprecantes, utque in tui commemoratione nos facile precepisti, in nos proficiant infirmitatis auxilium, qui vives et regnas cum Deo Patrius et Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Oremus. Protector noster aspice Deus, et propugnatores tuos apaganorum defende periculis, ut omni perturbatione summota, liberes tibimentibus de serviam, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum, qui tecum vivet et regnat, in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Dominus vobiscum. Benedictum Sancti Evangelii secundum Ioannum. In principio erat verbum, et verbum erat apud Deum, et Deus erat verbum, hoc erat in principio apud Deum. Omnia per ipsum facta sunt, et sine ipsum factum est nihil. Quod factum est in ipso vita era, et vita era lux hominum, et lux in tenebris lucet, et tenebrae eam non comprenderunt. Fuit homo missus ad eo cum nomen erat Ioannes, hic venit in testimonium, ut testimonium periberet de lumine, et ut omnes creret per illum. Non erat ille lux, sed testimonium periberet de lumine. Erat lux veraque illuminat omnium hominem venientem in hoc mundum. In mundo erat, et mundus per ipsum factus est, et mundus eum non cognovit. In propria venit, et sui eum non acceperunt. Quoquod autem deceperunt eum de Deis potestatem filios Dei fieri, his qui credunt in nomine eius, qui non ex sanguinibus, nec ex voluntate carnis, nec ex voluntate viris, sed ex Deo nati sunt. Verbum caro factum est. Et habitabit in nobis, et vidimus gloriam eius, gloriam quasi unigenitia Patria, plenum gratiae veritatis.